All right, guys. Okay, this is so stop the other time. So I welcome you all to this other section where we're going to be talking about the callbacks and async JavaScript. Okay, the short form is async, and this is how you use it in the JavaScript async, just like that, and takes in another away. So we're going to talk about this right away. Okay, so welcome to this tutorial again, and yeah, let's jump into it. So this time around, what we're going to do now, we actually would let me just say, let's just comment. Okay, I don't want to comment it out, so let's create another file. We'll call this one file1. So file1 dot JavaScript, right? So we want to create some callbacks in this file. So basically, when you want to use this file1, you can actually just take this guy out like this, and just put the slash, and you can be able to get the file1. So yeah, we have been able to import the file1 into our script. You can see it won't do anything anymore because we no longer use the script that contains the click event. So in this file1, we want to create some callbacks, okay? And this callback, we actually, let me first of all explain what this callback actually is, right? So basically, asynchronization operations in JavaScript are commonly handled with callbacks. Okay, so that is what it does. We like whenever we use this asynchronous that's async operations in JavaScript, we actually use callbacks to to handle these async operations. Okay, so yeah, let's just call this one callback operations. Okay, yeah, callback operations examples. Yeah, so basically let's use this function. Okay, the function is a reserved sorry, did I get this thing right? Yeah, it's a reserved function or reserved keyword in JavaScript. Okay, so you don't want to use it as your let me just say as a random variable in your code, else it will throw you some errors. I don't know, but it is really advisable to avoid any reserved keywords in whatever programming language that you make use of. So let's say we want to create a fetch data. This is a function, okay? So we use this callback, okay? So basically, what we want to do this time around, so we want to pass in this callback, okay? Just like that, right? And at this next line, which is line 3, so we're going to just set a timeout. Let's say set timeout, okay? So we just bring the function again and create a new function here that is like a nested function. And this time around, we want to create a variable called data that will store the fetch data, okay? So basically, we will just output something to the screen like this. We want to pass in this fetch data string to this data variable that we just created. So yeah, okay, so this time around, what we need to do, sorry, what we need to do, we need to use the callback, okay, and pass in the data that we just created, the data variable that you've seen here. So pass it back to this callback. So now the next line, what we're going to do, we're going to set the timeout like we mentioned. Okay, we're going to set the timeout, and this time around we use the 2000, which indicates that is a 2 seconds, right? So we say 2000. You can put this 2000 indicate that is 2 seconds. If you say 10,000, that is about 10 seconds. Okay, so basically that is what you need to understand, right? So this time around we bring the fetch data function that we'll call the function here, and we'll pass in we'll create another function called, let's say this time around, this one should be like, let's say the results, to give it a results function. And I think I'm omitting one parenthesis. So yeah, I'll just console log something to the screen. Let's just say, let's console log this result, okay? So this result should be able to have the content that we have tried to set here. So what we do, we just pass in the fetch, or sorry, the result this time around, not the fetch. Okay, so let me observe the code again and see if I did this thing right or not. So basically, in the first line here, we created a function called fetch data and a callback. Okay, and what we did there, the next line, which is line 3, we created a function there. They will use the set timeout function. Yeah, the set timeout function. I created the function here. This function carries like a nested variable called data, and we're passing a string to it called this fetch data and use the callback to get this data, right? And we set it to 2 seconds, okay? So this part, which is line 9, we have to call this fetch data function, okay? And we're passing another function to it, which is then the result, and we have to console log the result, okay? So let's output it, and I'll then talk about a few explanations to what this guy would do. So basically, we need to enter the JavaScript, and we talk about the file JS, and we just hit enter. Basically, you can see we got the fetch data because it's what this fetch data contains. This data, this string that was passing to this nested function. Okay, so that is why we got this. So it worked as expected. So like in this example, the fetch data kind of simulates an async function, async operation like fetch data from a server, right? And uses a callback to handle the results. Okay, so that is just what we did there. So the next thing we're going to talk about promises for async operations. Okay, so yeah, so we can call this next one, we say file2. Okay, so basically I'm going to send the contents uploaded to the GitHub repositories. So you go there and get all the source code. So yeah, so what we want to talk about this time around, we want to talk about, okay, so we say promises, yeah, promises for async, that's asynchronous, okay, so asynchronous operations, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about now in this file2 script, okay. So yeah, we want to just say some promises, operations, okay, so just some promises operations like that. So now we want to use the same function, yeah, JavaScript function, and create a fetch data function also. Okay, so you need to make sure you add two parentheses to indicate that this is a function. Okay, so we use the curly brace, and what we need to do now, we can just want to return a new object, new promise, and yeah, so we just pass in the same function and we'll create there is something they call resolve and reject. Okay, so basically, in the long run, you get used to what these reject and resolve kind of work to do, and I will still give a brief explanation on that. Okay, so we have the reject and the resolve and the reject, and what we need to do here, we can just want to say, let's just say first, uh, we just want to like set a timeout. So yeah, we just say like we did initially, it's just a set timeout. Okay, so basically we will create a new function here and just like an empty function, right? So yeah, we just use the let keyword to create, let's just create a success. Okay, so create a success variable, and we just assign true. Or this time around, just like using boolean to indicate whether it's true or false. So, but this one we is not like boolean, so we're just setting it to true. Okay, so this one, what this true we do is kind of like it will simulate like the successful data fetch. That is what it's gonna do. So yeah, that's what you need to understand. So the next thing we want to do, we kind of say let the success again. Okay, so with this time around, we would like to use the resolve keyword to resolve the fetch data. Okay, so what we want to do, we just want to say resolve, and we use the string and print out fetch. Let's just say fetch data. Okay, that's what we want to do. I'm getting a error here. Sorry, an error. So let me see what this thing is. Let me see what happened there. Okay, so for now, I will just try to ignore that, right? So the next thing we want to do, we actually, let me put my semicolon, and the next thing we want to do, we want to use the S, okay? Let's just say S, then we reject this whole thing. So let's say reject, okay? So we pass in the, let's say error fetching data. That is when we have an issue with the fetching of the data. So we just out, throw this to the output to the screen and or to the console and say error fetching data. So in this other line, we gonna just use we're gonna set the timeout like we did in the other part. So this time we can just say 2 seconds, which is that 2000 numbers that you see there. Okay, so that is it, and we just add semicolon. Oh, sorry, yeah, semicolon. Yeah. So now we want to use this promise. Okay, we want to use this promise. So let's come down a bit and let's say fetch data. Sorry, fetch data is a function, right? So what we want to do this time around, we want to do something like so just push it using your tab key because it's good you make your codes very, very, neat. So I'll just use the dot, but basically you can actually do it this way, dot then, right? Okay, so we pass in the function like this and we give it a result. Okay, so just a result function there. And what we want to do here, we actually want to console log something to the screen. Okay, so we just console log the result. That there is a function that we've seen there, so we just say result. All right, so yeah, so but like I said, you can actually bring this guy down and just do it this way, right? So this next one can actually be nested a little bit. Yeah, let me take out this guy so you can see the complete screen. So yeah, this is what we just did here. So this one you can actually nest it a bit like this, and you come down a bit, and you can do the dot cache. Okay, so we cache the function here again. So this time we cache some errors if there is any. Okay, so we console log something to the screen also, like we did at the top. So we console log the error itself. Okay, so that is if there's an error, we console log the error. But if there's no error, so we console log the result that we're going to get. So basically, let's try to go through the code from the top again, so we can fix this error that we are having there. All right. So the first line there, which is the line 3, we created a function fetch data and return the new promise. Yeah. So the promise takes into yeah, two arguments there. So the first one here is the resolve and the reject. Basically, yeah. Like I said, I'm going to talk about it more of it. So the line 5, we have to set the timeout function, okay, and we say let this success create a function, yeah, sorry, create a function a variable success, and we assign a true, indicating that the data was kind of fetched successfully, right? So also we wanted to check instead and not if not this else, because what we want to do, we want to kind of check to see if the data was fetched, or if the data has been resolved, that it's fetched successfully, or the data was kind of rejected. Okay, so basically that is what we needed to do. So we needed to use the if to check whether the data was fetched successfully or not. Okay, so that is why we got that error there. Okay, so now we set the fetch data timeout to be 2 seconds, which is that 2000 numbers that you've seen there. So what we did at this other part, we had to call the promise function, like using the promise function, and we brought in this fetch data, and we checked to see if the data was fetched, and we assign this function result to print to we assign the data there to this result, so that we can print it to the console and print the fetch data to the console. But when we encounter an error, we should also output the error, right? So the error should be basically error fetching data, and the result should be fetch data. So that is either of the two we're going to get from our code, right? So let's try to run this code again. So this time around, it will be file 2. So I remove the 1 and put 2. So let's see, we set it to 2 seconds, and you can see, yeah, it worked accordingly. So we got the fetch data successfully, right? So that is it. So the next thing we want to do, like I said, promises like itself kind of make it clearer when an operation succeeded, like when it has been succeeded. So like you get the result, that is for the success, use the result. And when you encounter an error, you use the reject does the error handling. So right, so for the success is the result, and for the error is the reject, basically, yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about is chaining promises, okay? Yeah, so I can put this here and say chaining promises. Okay, so see you in the next video for now, and take care. Bye bye, and take care.